Hello, my name is Diane, and today I'm going to talk about some of the books that are coming out this month in July. I'm just going to get right into the books. Starting next week on July 8th, we have The Secret Market of the Dead by Giovanni Di Feo. This is a fantasy story taking place in 18th century Italy, in a city that borders day and night, where night is this fiefdom that's ruled by 7 immortals, and it also has this magic power that can reshape someone's destiny at a very high price. And we follow our main character, Oriana, who is the daughter of a smith, and she dreams of one day becoming a smith herself and hearing all of these stories about the men and the beasts that live in the night. And on one occasion, she inadvertently ends up in the secret market of the dead, where she sees some of these things that she's heard about the night. She learns about this power. And then a few years later, her father decides that her brother is going to succeed him as the smith. She's obviously not happy with this decision and challenges her brother to a series of trials to determine who's actually going to succeed their father as the smith. And the competition progressively escalates, and I assume she's going to be very tempted to track down and use this power to change her destiny so that she can become a smith, or at least spend more time in the night that she's so very interested in. But there's of course going to be some great price for her to pay to make either of those things happen. Also coming out on July 8th is The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy by Bridget Knightley. This is a fantasy romance following our two main characters, Orsic, who has come down with some illness, and he is an assassin, and the only person who will be able to help him get over this illness is from a rival order. They have a healer who will likely be able to help him. He just has to somehow convince her. And she is our other main character, Oriane, and she works with this order who is taking care of children who have fallen ill with some form of pox that has mysteriously come back after being forgotten for a very long time. And they have a plan to roll out this immunization program to prevent everyone from falling ill from this. However, they don't have the funds to do it. When Orsic arrives, he bribes her to cure him, and desperate for this money to help these children, she ends up agreeing, and together they have to figure out a cure for this illness, where it came from, and of course it's a romance, so they're going to fall in love along the way. I don't read a lot of romance, but I do like the enemies to lovers trope. I do also like the two characters, especially when they don't like each other initially, are forced to work together for some sort of common goal. In this case, it's to cure this illness, one of them for very selfish reasons, and the other one to help these children that are suffering. And I always really enjoy seeing that dynamic, whether it's romantic or just relationships of two people who initially don't like each other for some reason, or are on opposite sides of something, where they're in opposing orders in this, and then they have to get to know each other and rely on one another, and that builds a positive relationship, as reluctant as they may be. But I always think that's an interesting dynamic to explore. Then coming out on July 15th is The Memory of the Ogisi by Moses Osiotomi. This is the third and final installment in the Forever Desert trilogy, which is a novella trilogy that follows a different character in each book at a different point in time, but in the same place. I have been loving this series. I love the writing of it. I think the characters are really compelling, and following them along on their journey. In the first book, we follow a main character whose city doesn't have enough water and his mother is dying, so he goes out in search of water to save her and ends up learning some truths about the world that he returns to his city with, and it forever changes the fate of his city. In the second book, we pick up 100 years later, where the history of this city has been taught not entirely accurately, and we follow a main character who's kind of caught in between learning how the history has maybe been spun a certain way, and the history he thought he knew about his city isn't entirely accurate, and he learns more of the ambiguity of that history. And of which side is right or wrong in this conflict that he ends up finding himself in the middle of. And in this third book, we're going to be following a new character later in time where this city is now very prosperous and the people are living well. They're no longer struggling for water. And we have our main character who's a historian, and they don't know at this point how the city came to be, like what its actual history is, and they're trying to figure that out to shape their future. And he believes that he can find this tomb of Osi that is going to somehow explain how the city came to be and what its actual past is. And he sets off into the desert to find this tomb and hopefully find the answers that they've been looking for. Then coming out on July 22nd is Arcana Academy by Elise Kova. In this we follow our main character Clara, who is a thief and does illegal magic, and she ends up getting caught inking a tarot card, which is a rare power that only certain people at the Arcana Academy are allowed to do. And she winds up with a lifetime imprisonment. However, she gets a chance to escape when the headmaster of the academy strikes a deal with her that if she helps steal a specific tarot card from the king so that they can create this all-powerful tarot card, then she'll get her freedom. So to do this, she has to pose as his bride-to-be and a first year at this academy. This arrangement lets him keep an eye on her, but also allows her to get close to the royal family to hopefully pull this off and regain her freedom by crafting this magic for him or possibly using it for herself. Then coming out on July 29th is Silvercloak by L.K. Stephen. This follows our main character Saffron, whose parents were killed by a group called the Blood Moons, and 2 decades later she has sworn vengeance against them and lies her way into the Silvercloak Academy to join the city's elite detective group. She is, however, found out that she lied her way to being there, and instead of kicking her out, they offer her a chance to infiltrate the Blood Moons by going undercover and joining them with the intention of bringing them down, which is her whole goal in all of this. So she, of course, agrees and ends up joining the Blood Moons and has to convince them that she's now one of them by doing some pretty terrible things and ultimately dealing with the other gangs and smuggling and consequently getting to know some of the Blood Moons. She's, of course, in a very tricky situation where she has this personal vengeance against them, and she also needs to operate a certain way to keep her true identity and purpose a secret, and I think things are going to probably get more complicated as she gets more involved with this group and getting to know some of the people within it. And the last book I want to talk about, also coming out on July 29th, is The Lighthouse at the Edge of the World by J.R. Dawson. The story takes place in Chicago on Lake Michigan, and it follows a main character whose father is a ferryman for the dead, and there is a lighthouse that is a beacon for the dead, and every night he crosses them over in his boat. However, on one night, something is wrong and the lighthouse begins to flicker out, and somehow a living person has found their way onto this boat. This person is Charlie, and she has followed a song there, and she's looking for someone that she's lost. So then they have to figure out how Charlie actually got to be there, what's going on within the city. Something has clearly gone wrong or been disrupted in some way. See if it can be corrected or if Charlie ends up finding whoever it is that she's looking for. So those are all of the books that I'm looking forward to that are coming out this month. Let me know if you're looking forward to any of these or if there's anything else you're excited about. Otherwise, that's all for me today. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you next time. Bye.